Good afternoon. I'm Robert McDougall. This is Anjan Patel. Wow, who knew that we generate so much excitement? A commercial real estate firm, Skype for business right after lunch. So I'd like to start our track and just, we're just explaining our journey to Skype for business. We have had a few challenges in the beginning, but great partnerships and great experiences with our Microsoft teams. I'm going to go ahead and explain a little bit about our business. As I said, we're a commercial real estate firm, Cushman and Wakefield. We have 43,000 employees, about 60 offices, in offices in 60 countries. Global presence in just about every continent across the world. Core competency is obviously about 60% of our revenue is through brokerage services or sales and leasing of large Class A buildings and different facilities management, global occupier services, and property management. So you can imagine a very different set of users and personas, very different needs spread throughout the globe. Really have to talk about the journey that we've taken in the last few years. This is a timeline of our growth starting in the 1700s all the way to now. But really in the last 2 years, we've grown quite a bit from mergers, acquisitions. Sometime around 2010 and it's really when we started our large journey. We've consolidated twice in the last couple of years and really did, I would say, 4 rebranding efforts in the last 18 months. So you can imagine just how much growth, and along with growth, the integration activities and the experience to flatten our network, solidify our Wi-Fi, get corporate standards for data centers, local branch offices, Wi-Fi management, security policies. It's been really the effort for a couple of years now to grow and to mature that platform. And we're still doing this today, obviously. One big thing that we knew we had to do is a global unified communication strategy. So when we don't necessarily are in the same tenants from Office 365, we have on-prem Exchange, we have Lotus Notes. This is one thing that we can provide to our company that makes us feel like we're one company, a unified platform. So, as I said, on this journey, we have many different areas of connectivity, telephony, audio, visual, IM and presence, local SIP trunk, or local PRIs, E1, SIP trunks, and data centers, many different egress points. You can imagine the complexity that we faced in the very, very beginning. Telephony, again, probably 50 to 60% is name brand telephony platforms of IMITEL, ShoreTel, Cisco, on-premise, Skype for Business. So again, just a mix of everything, along with no-name players, cloud-based telephony systems and things that we just can't manage and maintain or sustain from a support perspective or management perspective. Again, another big piece of this is our audio-visual or audio and video conferencing platforms. One of the first things that we did in our journey was to consolidate everything we had, WebEx, GoToMeeting, Skype for Business, Cisco, Polycom, to Blue Jeans, knowing that we would do that for 12 months and move into PSTN conferencing. Again, just getting people used to the technology and then migrating to our final strategy. Again, IM Presence, the same thing. Jabber, Skype for Business on-prem, hybrid. Our goals here is obviously technology consolidation, reduce operations cost, and support headaches. Manage the workplace costs as well as create a unified global platform that everybody could use. Another goal is to improve accessibility and productivity and experience, and obviously we can now collaborate with our clients, earn business, and provide a better experience for Salesforce as well as our internal staff. Another big piece that another big goal of ours was to create a digital workplace strategy. So not only thinking about Skype for Business and what that does to us, but working with our workplace strategy and our real estate team that are building offices, net new, as well as refreshing to create that unified experience from if you're sitting at your desk, sitting at home, on your cell phone, on your tablet, or in a conference room, trying to that one-click experience and that feeling that everything was working together. Obviously, I just went over the technology landscape for our current operations. And our future is SIP trunks regionally, local offices, PRI lines, hopefully PSTN in the cloud is our ultimate strategy. Skype for Business Online for telephony, using audio codes for SPCs and Sonos, and Skype for Business Online for audio and video and PSTN conferencing, and IM and Presence. I'm going to give the stage over to Anjan, who's our global chief architect and is working primarily on the Skype for Business.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, first of all, thank you guys for joining us and hearing us, our story and our journey of Skype for Business. And I'm sure you guys may not be sleeping because of the food, I guess. So as you heard from Rob, that a lot of M&A in last 18 months, like every organization brings their own technologies, own processes, their own tool sets, as well as their own support structure. So the biggest challenge which we had as an organization was that, every office, so we have globally, we are around 250 offices globally in every single continent. And what happens that, every single office has telephony, which is literally like, it's different from other office. And it creates the challenges for us. One, basically that, unless you are in office, you do not have, or you cannot use that same phone number. Our support infrastructure cost, is skyrocketing kind of thing. So idea is like, how we can consolidate all those telephony infrastructure and make it one global infrastructure and create the value for our business. Usually, IT, we consider as a cost center, but we wanted to make sure that, we provide the business value to our, our partners and help them grow their business. So before I get into the guiding principle and what our journey were, what was architecture, design, and deployment plan and everything, how many of you are aware, with Skype for Business platform? Is anybody, in this this crowd, you guys have Skype for Business implemented in your? Awesome, a lot of people, awesome. How many people have Skype for Business on-prem setup? Okay, almost everyone, fantastic, okay. So I think you guys are aware what Skype for Business is and things like that, so I'm not going to definitely bore you here. So the point is like, okay, we wanted to implement a global solution for 250 sites for 30,000 plus individuals. We wanted to standardize the hardware. So as I said, like, okay, every office we had like, okay, the Polycom phones, Avaya phones, Cisco phone, things like that. So we wanted to standardize the hardware from the backend perspective as well as from the client endpoint, like headset, handset. We wanted to standardize that. We wanted to make sure that, okay, the guiding principle, we wanted to make sure that the cost of our backend servers as well as our backend infrastructure, we reduced drastically. So, as you guys may be knowing it, like to run the Skype for Business on-prem, it requires a ton of resources. Like you need a SQL server, you need like ton of mediation server, this front-end server, okay, the ton of management from the operations perspective, the maintenance, monitoring, there's a lot of overhead. So we were thinking that, okay, hey, yes, that's one route, but what can we do that basically? Can we reduce something? So we were trying to be innovative there. We wanted to, as I said, okay, because multiple organizations came together, various M&As and everything, a lot of our offices had local E1 PRI line, so kind of, okay, the telephony is like a spread out. Then there was a 2 or 3, okay, organization which we merged. They were having SIP trunk, which is like, okay, the regional SIP trunk and thing. So it was like technology landscape was all over. So idea was that, okay, if it's a country like United States, we wanted to centralize the SIP trunk, continent like Europe, and there is compliance reason and all those things like Germany and London, UK and everything. We wanted to make sure that, okay, hey, we provide or we build the solution so the data sovereignty issues and, like, okay, where the SIP trunk can end and start and all those things are taken care kind of thing. So, hey, if we have to use a local SIP gateway or PRI gateway, we can do it. And then there was another third option for us, basically, that, okay, hey, if I do not want to invest in hardware or anything, can I use Microsoft PSTN calling services? So those were the couple of guiding principle and direction which we took it kind of before we jump into, like, okay, our architecture and implementation. So when we started, we engaged Microsoft. I think we have our partners actually, like, okay, sit here. So we had our vendors here. So we started working, as a team. And what were the options, basically? So we had 4 options. One option, I think most of you are using the Skype for Business on-prem. So it includes on-prem PBX, SIP trunking, the conference, and obviously the large data footprint. So that was one option. The second option we had is Skype for Business hybrid. So we as a company organization, we have heavily invested in Office 365. Our entire mail infrastructure is in Office 365. So for initial choice for us was Skype for Business hybrid, even if we go on-prem. So that was another option for us. The third option which we had, as from the architecture standpoint, was Skype for Business Cloud Connector Edition. I don't know how many of you know about the Cloud Connector Edition, but we are one of the first client, Microsoft client, who adopted Cloud Connector and, like, okay, deployed and started using it. So we have, like, okay, tomorrow we have a session for a Cloud Connector in a detail, right, Nikolai? So on this slide, I think it's tomorrow. What time, Nikolai? Do you know? 12:30, yes. So if you guys want to know what Cloud Connector is and, like, okay, all those details, I would highly encourage you guys to sign up. The reason, like, okay, so what Cloud Connector does is still on-prem setup. However, it is like, okay, the pizza box setup. You take one, blade or any machine, basically the pizza box machine, create spun off like a 2 or 3 virtual machine using the Hyper-V. Again, Microsoft has laid out really solid process there. You need SQL Express. Can you believe SQL Express? No SQL Enterprise, nothing, no mirroring, no DR capability. You just have, you build one small machine, 3 VM, you put 3 VM with a SQL Express, and that's the only thing you need, actually. So again, I think Cloud Connector, you guys can, like, okay, listen those things. I think tomorrow in this, like Nikolai will take you, deep dive, but that was another third option. And a fourth option was totally go 100% Skype for Business online. So idea is like, okay, hey, let's use the 100%, Microsoft PSTN calling plan, and most of our Cushman, not most, actually, everyone. all our Cushwake users are using Office 365 email anyhow. So, like, okay, we are on E5 platform anyhow. So, okay, yeah, let's get the PSTN offering from Microsoft. And but I don't need any infrastructure on-prem. I don't need anything. I just need operations, basically. I can even have a monkey, and basically I can manage the entire telecom infrastructure. But anyway, I think it's just a joke. So, so as part of out of this 4 option, the 2 options which we, we decided that we are going to go after, like Skype for Business Cloud Connector Edition and Skype for Business Online. So those are the 2 options we selected, and we are moving forward. Obviously, we'll talk about that. So what are so this is like kind of a high-level architect, what we are doing kind of thing. So as you can see, if I have the cloud PBX, if I'm using Microsoft PSTN offering, I don't really need to have any on-prem infrastructure from backend perspective, right? So straight away, I will subscribe. I'll provide the license to the user, and provide the number to user on a cloud, and user stays in a cloud. And only thing from the IT infrastructure perspective, we only need to give to user internet bandwidth, and I'm good to go kind of. So that's the option 1. The option 2 was that the cloud connector. So we implemented the cloud connector, and in cloud connector we have 2 different type of implementation. One implementation which we have is using regional SIP trunk. So like in North America, we are regionalized the SIP trunk, so we'll have a 1 SIP trunk, and however, as I said earlier, in EMEA region, I would have the regional, local, country-specific SIP trunk, like Germany and France and UK. And other countries, I may be doing kind of a regional SIP trunking from the UK itself. So those are the 2 options. And I think our Microsoft partner asked us specifically to put what we implemented. So as you can see, in California, we have used our PSTN calling from Microsoft, and very successfully. I think people are happy, and rollout is going, fantastic. From the cloud connector, which is like on-prem, lightweight on-prem implementation, we have implemented cloud connector in Australia, for Australia and New Zealand. And we are in a process. I think by this Friday, we should have cloud connector implemented in Chicago data center, which we have actually for our North American region, actually. And I think Europe is also in the process. So great progress, I think, and all these details, obviously, cloud connector, what it does, obviously, you guys can ask me a question if you have later. And if too technical, if I cannot answer or something, obviously, you guys can talk about that in tomorrow's session. Okay, so that's the kind of architecture that, hey, what we did, where we wanted to go. Now, what's the biggest challenge, right? Okay, so architecture engineering is easy task. The biggest challenge is for us that, how we can deploy these, this entire program. So Microsoft, as I said earlier, we partnered with Microsoft, and Microsoft came up with Microsoft Skype operation framework. And, I think we are one of the first customer again, to use that operations framework. So what this give me, basically, this operations framework? So Microsoft comes up with the implementation plan. So how we are going to implement Skype for Business from the backend perspective, what is the training plan, what is the adaptation plan, and and what's the then rollout plan. So this entire thing is basically part of this framework, and this is a framework which we are using. Obviously, if you are interested, I'm sure Nikolai would be, our Microsoft partner will be able to provide those information, or you guys can reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help you guys. Again, these are the detail, like 8 weeks program. We are rapidly moving towards Skype for Business implementation. So it's really, as you can see, week by week, really thorough discussion, really intense discussion, implementation, and things like that within the team, actually. In 9 weeks, we are, done in particular region or particular site. So Microsoft came up with this framework and say, hey, yep, guys, Cushman guys, we have a framework. Why don't you guys go and implement it? So, yep, okay, this is fine. But what happens that, okay, Microsoft is going to give us like, okay, the framework. It doesn't mean that it's going to fit in any of our organizations. So obviously it didn't fit in our organization. So we had to customize that framework. Again, not much, but at least it gives us a foundation, okay? So once the foundation was built, we says, okay, hey, let's customize it. So, and the biggest challenge what we had, as you can see, like governance and policies. So obviously that would, like, okay, for us as a Cushwick, we wanted to make sure that, okay, we have our CIOs, our business partner are aligned with the program because it's a cultural shift for our end user rather than using the normal VoIP phone. Now they have to use either the headphone or Skype for Business soft phones. Obviously, it's a cultural shift. So we want to make sure that we have a good governance process and we have a business buy-in to make sure that, okay, we have a good, smooth rollout. So we implemented the governance policy. The technology, I think the technology is really the Microsoft operations framework it covers. It covers like specifically the back-end technologies that, okay, like Cloud Connector, like, okay, the implementation, client readiness. So like, okay, so client readiness is another challenge for us guys. And I'm sure many of you basically, like, okay, if you are on the journey, we needed to make sure that, okay, the hardware, so a lot of time, like hardware is like 4-year-old or 4-year-old or 5-year-old kind of thing for some users, or they are using Windows Office 2010 or something. We wanted to make sure that, okay, we provide them the latest client, latest OS, to make sure that they have a best experience. So client readiness and monitoring and management, because as we talked earlier at Cushwick, we had so much diversified and like, okay, the fragmented technology. Monitoring was also fragmented. So we needed to make sure that when we are building this technology together, we have a good monitoring in a place so we can make sure that, okay, because phone, right, kind of, you want to make sure that, okay, the phone is like, okay, the lifeline of the organization. Want to make sure that, okay, it works every time. And we have a 98% SLA or above kind of for a call quality. So it takes, like, okay, we needed to make sure that we have a good monitoring and management. Asset management. So again, like that was another aspect of it which we needed to work on it, where we can track our headphone, like, okay, not a headphone, but desk phone specifically kind of thing, to make sure that, okay, hey, where they are going and, like, okay, how we are managing them. Readiness rollout. So this is again, like part of our deployment. So Microsoft and our vendor partners, I think they definitely help us big time. So that was another big ticket item for us, readiness rollout. We needed to make sure that, okay, hey, users are ready in terms of the training, in terms of their desktop, in terms of their phone, because we wanted to make sure that, okay, that entire ecosystem, whatever the device they are using the technology. The network readiness, again, that's a huge piece, right, kind of, because prior to this implementation, all egress it out. So we will have a PRI line. Every office will have a PRI line, right? So it hits the local network in that site or office. However, it doesn't stress my either internet egress or my MPLS to my data center. Now, because of this architecture and this implementation, we needed to make sure that, okay, the network is ready and it can handle all these audio and video traffic, which, like, okay, the Skype for Business is generating. So network readiness is a big piece of this program, and, like, okay, we had a great success in that. And obviously rollout training. Training is, again, as I said, big part of it. As most of our users were used to with like desk phone, like, okay, or like that Bluetooth phone. So we are like, okay, right now around 60 to 40 or 70 to 30, right?
70-30 is what we're shooting at.
So 70%. So 70% of our user base is going to use the headphone, no desk phone. So 30% people will get desk phones. So obviously it's a cultural shift from 100% desk phone to 70%. So obviously we needed to make sure that we have a good user training, adaptation program, and like, okay, that was another kind of a topic and workshop which we took care. And the support and operational alignment. Again, that's another big work stream, as like, okay, and again, like, okay, all these framework, like, okay, this topic comes up because of where we come from, how we grew. Because of all the decentralization support, now we are centralizing the support, so we need to make sure that, okay, all the support and operations are aligned with this program. And obviously adaptation drive. So we customized this framework. Based on this, we had a different project plan. different work stream lead, and different governance processes for each stream. So make sure that, okay, hey, we have a successful rollout for our users. So where we are right now, so you want to take this?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
awesome. Okay.
I want to go back to the slide before this as well. Just
Which one?
This one.
Okay.
I can't stress enough that Microsoft can provide, the best templates and great guidance, but customizing this for your business and how your people and your culture fit, including globally, right? So oftentimes, wherever the headquarters is, you're focused on that region, and often build your plan based on kind of where your central IT folks are. And I think that you miss a lot. EMEA works completely different than ANZ. North America, obviously, different than a lot of different regions. So taking the framework, building your custom framework, deployment framework, and focusing really the technology, I hate to say this, is the easy part. The adoption and the plan behind taking away things that were somebody's lifeblood. So in a primary, 60% of revenue, as I said before, comes from salespeople, brokers, millionaires. They love to slam that phone down, and when they get upset, or it's something to them that is culturally anywhere in the globe is something that is a pacifier. So saying now you're no longer going to have this, you're going to use a soft phone or a headset or a USB microphone. Understanding those things, and a lot of times the IT department runs the adoption program. Where we maybe made some, not mistakes, but we approached it, tried to engage, and it's the right people, business analysts and in the business, and the top level CIOs that may not have the finger on the pulse of exactly what their user base are doing. So I think focusing on this, it looks pretty flat, but look at it by region and look at it by cultural and your persona, and really just focus on persona of mobile worker sales, back office, and those different things by region. So I won't spend more time on that, but so where we are today, 30,000 people on Office 365, Skype for Business Online, about 15,000 people on O365 E5. We did, I don't know if anybody's heard of the Lightning program. I don't know if it's still available or not, but great practice for starting to dip your toe into what the challenges are, or the adoption is going to be, and I highly recommend, if the program's not available, maybe just start people on PSTN conferencing and get people used to that, and it slowly moves into the enterprise voice field. So August, September, we had 200 users on PSTN in our Northern California offices, about 100 people so far on Cloud Connector, and we'll have North America ANZ on Cloud Connector here very soon. October and through the end of next year, we're going to hit about 15,000 people in the US and 15,000, so around 30 or more 1,000 people by the end of our journey. So.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Rob. So I don't want you guys to think that our rollout or whatever we did was amazing. Yes, it was amazing for sure, but it has its own challenges too. So again, I listed down a few of the challenges what we have. And again, when I say it's the challenges, it doesn't mean that they are a roadblock or something. It's just that they were challenging, and if you guys are embarking on a similar journey, just make sure that, okay, hey, you take care of it, or you are aware of it. So one of the challenge, like, okay, because, like we selected to go, or we decided to move forward with a cloud connector as well as the PSTN calling, both the option use the Microsoft Cloud PBX rather than on-prem, so it requires Office 365 E5 licensing for every single user. So Cloud PBX has a couple of functionality issues, not issues, but yeah, the deficiency in capability right now. So one of the biggest one is like, okay, the E91 capability. So right now, it doesn't, if I use a cloud connector, and if I'm using, let's say, Verizon or AT&T, say trunking, they do not provide the service saying, hey, which, like if I'm calling a 911, okay, which floor I am on, which wing I am on, which seat I am on. So to give you an example, the compliance, right? If you are in New York City, and if you have like more than 10,000 square feet space, what you need to provide when you call E911, like, okay, we need to provide, like, okay, which wing they are on, like which floor they are on, basically all 9-yard information. And those information we are not able to provide. So obviously there are some challenges. We are working with our partners to overcome that challenges right now. So it's not going to, like, okay, stop us from our implementation. However, we had to change our rollout plans basically because of the supposed few capabilities. So I cannot, let's say, roll out Skype for Business in New York and Chicago, our big centers basically where we have a large space, office space. So I like will be focusing on the smaller offices or like, okay, the smaller regional centers. However, it's work in progress. The caller ID control, so that's another challenge which we have. So like you guys may be used to, like you put a *9 or something like that, and then you can, like, okay, mask your number when you call someone. So that capability is not there right now. However, Microsoft is working with us to provide all this capability to us, maybe by, again, I'm not authorized to speak that, okay, when they provide. However, they are working actively, and as soon as we have that, we will, make sure that, okay, the user who are sensitive to those capabilities, we will roll out to them too. But again, like, okay, because of these challenges, we will have to keep tinkering our rollout plan to our users, who is a very sensitive users probably. The auto attendant, I think a lot of people, you guys may have heard auto attendant, so that capability is not there right now. But obviously it's coming, and a lot of our offices is not using auto attendant, so we are good. However, the offices which use auto attendant, we are pushing back on the, like, okay, in the back of the queue for rollout. And attendant console. So Microsoft, so again, we have to engage with a different vendor to make sure we have attendance console. So those are the few challenges which we have. The other challenge, so this is again cloud connector and all those things, that challenge is related to technology. The other challenge which within our organization, as I said, branch office network readiness. So, and I think I try to cover because of the internet egress and, like, okay, the data traffic on, network traffic it would generate. Obviously, those are the challenges which we had so far, and obviously we are working on it. But again, just for you guys to know that, okay, hey, something to look for. Because if you have a Skype for Business online, the data, the traffic, you are not, like, okay, from office to data center. So usually your traffic would flow from office or your branch office to data center. Now, as soon as you go to the cloud PBX, your data is flowing outside over internet. So that's something I think, like, okay, we needed to work on it to make sure that, okay, we have enough capability, capacity around the internet to make sure that, okay, the call quality maintains. The call monitoring. So how many guys of you have used any call monitoring outside of Skype for Business default? What you are using? Event Zero? Oh, yeah, okay, cool. So Event Zero provides, like, okay, the good capability, right, for monitoring. So Microsoft bought Event Zero, and they have provided, like, okay, the call monitoring. However, in my mind, the capability with Cloud PBX right now is around 70% of that entire suite of Event Zero. It doesn't mean that, okay, it's not useful or anything. It's definitely useful. It is working out great. However, there are a couple of capability like export of the data for more analysis and something. Sometimes we struggle. Is it showstopper? No, it's not showstopper. Obviously, we are moving forward. So I think it's fantastic. But again, something to look for, and Microsoft is keep on enhancing this technology and call monitoring. So I think we are fine, but again, just another challenge, because expectation management, when we come from on-prem, we say, hey, this is what I was used to, now I have something minus 30%. So, how I can make sure that, okay, hey, that 30%, okay, do I ignore those things, or I have some other means to capture those data? And user learning curve. Again, we keep talking about that. That's the biggest piece, I think, and that's something we are working on. That's another challenge. So those are the few challenges, I think, in our program, but I think things are otherwise going wonderful, thanks to our Cushman team, our Microsoft partner, and our other vendor partners. So fantastic. Thank you, guys. I think that was the last slide. And any questions from anyone? Yes. So for a PSTN call, yes. So one of the things is basically for if we are using, so we have two options, right? So Microsoft PSTN, that is a call assisted. So if someone calls 911, example, what is the term, Nikolai? Operator assistant, right? 911, operator assistant. So, okay, you call 911, okay, hey, are you on exactly this office? And you verify saying, yep, yeah, this is office, or some different address basically. And, okay, the call get routed to 911. If person is not, or person is not capable to answer that, like the address or confirm, obviously, okay, they are going to dispatch whatever the address they have it on the file. Or for a cloud connector, we work with a telco SIP trunk basically, right? And whatever our default address, so we work with a telco, AT&T and Verizon. And they know the address that, okay, hey, this is the address for this phone number, and we put the sticker on every phone that, okay, do not call, if you're traveling, do not use this phone, the Skype for Business call for E91 or 911. Yes? Two changes, obviously, like a simple answer is obviously upgrade the bandwidth. However, our network architecture, so what we did as part of this program was that before, okay, all our branch offices were using MPLS connectivity from, okay, the offices to our data center. So what we are doing it basically, we are trying to, so we have a two simultaneously program running actually. One is our internet, so we want to egress out any internet traffic from the office, local offices to outside of our network. We do not want to carry that data traffic to our data center and then throw it out basically. So that was one of the things actually which we are working. The second is basically we are working on SD-WAN. I don't know whether you are familiar with SD-WAN. So what we have done, like, okay, we do the sizing activity that, okay, what type of internet bandwidth I would require. And then, like, okay, we got the AT&T or a Comcast business, literally, like, okay, our office based on the size kind of, commodity, internet connection. And we have implemented all the policies. So all my Skype for Business traffic egress out directly from that local branch office. So again, that's for the smaller offices. Obviously, the larger office where we have, it goes to our data center, and then it egress out from our data center. So, like, okay, the two different strategy depends on, like, what is the size of our office. So if I have a 200 people or 300 people in office, obviously I'm going to carry the the traffic to my data center. If I have a 50% people office, straight away egress it out from that branch office. Okay. Yes. I'm sorry? Express route. Which express route you are talking? Oh, Azure Express Route? No, we are not using it right now. No. We don't need it.
Express route actually not recommended even for Skype for Business. The reason we say it, so we implemented geo-awareness DNS. So, and every time your user tries to connect Skype for Business. The user gets the Edge server, right? We have Edge servers across the world, and if you wish, I can send you a link with exact locations. So let's say user in California tries to reach Skype for Business services. The user in California will get local Edge close to him. So it's actually the distance between the office and Edge, it's nothing. So express route is not requirement for Skype for Business. Sorry? You mean at Cushman?
Sorry?
How do you handle QoS?
Okay, so if I'm routing internal traffic, yes, I have a QoS service established. And a great question, yeah, after the Comcast, my internet egress, yes, I do not have any established QoS. So far with our bandwidth utilization, difficult question to answer, yes. We are still working on it to make sure that we have solid QoS every single day because we cannot have like, okay, so far right now during our initial implementation, out of 30 days, it works fantastic, 28 days, and then there would be a day, basically half hour or something like that. Yes, we have some challenges with QoS, and we are actively working that, okay, hey, how we can avoid or how we can manage that. So yes, we are trying to work around that solution right now, yes.
I think when you said setting that user expectation,
Yes.
users used to have that phone,
Yes.
one of the biggest issues we run into is what's keeping us on-prem.
Uh-huh.
Avoiding the cloud is that they want TDM-like quality all the time.
I hear you.
And leadership at the highest level has to accept that as soon as you drop all this traffic on your network, you can't control it all. And so jitter happens.
Absolutely.
And so are you setting that expectation with your users? Because you can chase call quality issues 24 hours a day.
Agree, and that's definitely a challenge, right? And so far, our calls have 98%, 98%, right? We have so our SLA basically 98% quality ratio. I think we are like okay, we are able to maintain, and I think I would only say that yes, we are still working to make sure that okay, even the call we have, which is like okay, the 2% call which is having some issues, we make sure that okay, it doesn't happen. Either we have to use either the like okay, the commodity-based internet, or we have to get into the MPLS or something. But yes, that's kind of a work in progress right now for us. Yes.
Certainly,
You're absolutely right.
certainly
That's
a challenge.
Yeah, that's a challenge, and that's the reason actually. If you remember, like okay, that's a branch office network readiness. Yeah, that's the biggest. So we are rolling out our office by offices. So obviously, I think those few challenges which we need to overcome as part of our rollout. Yes.
When doing such a big project, end user satisfaction and ensuring that their experience will be, if possible, better than before.
Absolutely.
How do you manage that with the last question?
So we are, like once we roll out Office, so we are trying to do Office by Office rollout. So we send out the surveys. Usually once rollout happens, we have a training session, and then we have adaptation drive. So when I say adaptation, you can say, hey, what you are doing adaptation, you already roll out telephony. But adaptation drive is like, okay, hey, are you using for IEM? Are you using for your conference? Audio video conference. So those type, and the survey is our, like okay, the one of the primary, like okay, the feedback source. And the second feedback source, so every office we have a two type of people individual, like we will have office manager as well as we'll have a site and support people individual who goes basically and make sure that okay, check it out, that okay, hey, what's the mood on the ground kind of. So we combine these two things kind of thing from the user satisfaction survey point of view. And then from the back-end point of view, we go to our monitoring and say, hey, so we daily basically we go and say, hey, what type of a call quality we are maintaining on day-to-day basis? Is it good? What type of a jitter we have? Like okay, things like that kind of. So these three things we combine and see, hey, how things are going before we go into this different another office kind of thing. We do the lesson learn, and then like okay, take it to the next office, make sure that okay it goes well, smooth. Like okay, we learn from our mistakes or whatever it may be, and then keep moving forward.
It's all part of the adoption piece
Exactly,
that you've created,
exactly.
but there's surveys and there's templates that Microsoft does provide and our partners as well. And so, following up not only a week after, but 3 weeks and a month, so you can look at the technical side of things, but also getting some feedback from the users, or you get surprised. And we've been surprised a couple of times.
Oh, absolutely,
We've gotten great feedback. This is the best thing ever, right? I'm not attached to my desk anymore. I can roam. This is great technology. And then 3 weeks or 2 weeks goes by, and you've heard that there's a lot of challenges with quality. So, trying to find the right balance between proactive response rather than reactive is something that we learned along the way. But really being vigilant about going back to the sites and continuing that, and that's partnership with your operations site services folks and the business managers, or the office, we call them business managers, but yes, office managers. So our service and service delivery lead in every region just get on their weekly calls and speak to every technology we're doing. We're also doing tenant-to-tenant migrations, yes, Active Directory Exchange migrations at the same time, and starting to move to SD-WAN and developing that strategy. It's all coming together, but you have to be in front of the business. It's just a lesson that we've learned.
Do you have a dedicated group
Yes.
for this? I mean, you've got obviously.
Yes, we have a project.
Administrators and so forth on the back end, but do you have a dedicated group to go site to site for this?
No, it's a shared, right? No, it's a shared resources on the site-to-site basis, but project teams. So we splitted these implementation in two, the twofold, right? One is a project team and implementation team, which is a dedicated, which makes sure that, okay, hey, design is done. Yeah, I'm just saying, right? From the back-end implementation, readiness, network readiness, client, they are taking care of everything, making sure the client is ready, kind of, right? That's the one thing. The second is basically like, okay, another not challenge, but another task is like, okay, we need to provide the headset to user, right? Kind of, okay, hey, this day your Avaya phone is going to die, and okay, you start using Skype for Business, kind of, right? So we provide the the local site and support and our office managers. They are shared resources. We don't have a dedicated resource, but they will go and kind of help user. We'll have set up a Genius bar type of thing. If anyone has an issue kind of thing, they come. But those will be the people on the ground kind of thing, is the shared resources on a site and support services side.
What's been working for us to date, and it wasn't perfect from the beginning. Certainly it's an evolution, but program manager is a must. We have a front end project manager and a back end project manager, and all that means is somebody that is the front end is coordinating number porting and user adoption efforts and training, and what headset you want to order from a catalog, what's your persona, getting with the business managers and really having those discussions and coordinating all those efforts. And then the back end is, do we do cloud connector, delivering the equipment, getting the data center set up, making sure that we're prepped from the, and solid from a network readiness perspective. But that is coordinating with our operations and site services team as a joint effort. So really the project team has been the core to everything. And also our partners. But as you all have been in this, I'm sure, the business for a long, long time, you get 2 or 3 partners and they're only as good as the information that you give them to be successful. The best partner in the world is not going to be successful if you don't give them the right information. So oftentimes you get offered a project manager or 2 from the partner, and then you have another partner on the other side giving you 2 project managers, and it just becomes really, really confusing. And the racing matrix is like a squiggly line of colors, right? So just having a core team that are really good and agile has been successful to us right now.
Yep. Thank you.
We did. We absolutely did. So we did, 12 months assessment of calling, plans, obviously conferencing services, located all our PRIs and E1 lines. Also tried to put some soft costs to maintenance and PBX, but at the end of the day, the numbers are pretty flat. It's hard to really put together that business case that makes it look really attractive, that isn't extended out over at least 4 to 5 years. The key to this is collaboration and connectivity. And then you marry that with your workplace strategy to give that unified experience, not just at the desktop from a technical perspective, but a complete experience from the monitors on the wall when you walk into our offices, to the conference rooms that we're in, to the desk, to the tablet, to the phone. It really pays off in the long run. So we did go through a very painful ROI study, and it's changed over the last 18 months. So in places that we thought we could get rid of PRIs, which was a big part of the synergy savings, we learned we couldn't quite do that yet in certain regions. Obviously, it's not ready. PSTN in the cloud isn't ready in certain locations. We had the expense of Cloud Connector, where I thought we could get rid of PRIs, we had to keep them. So it constantly evolved, and also realizing that you need that calling plan, which is additional expense above E5. And so knowing exactly where, do I do international calling? Can I route that a different way? It's a work in progress. The most solid ROI plan in the world changes. It's fluid. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the way you said we are gutsy. Yes.
We have,
we are trying to innovate, and obviously we are taking a lot of risk. However, so far it's paying off pretty well. We are very excited about this implementation.
Our company is, I have to say, it's a 43,000 user startup company right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, private equity owned, was purchased, obviously, is a big private equity firm. And in that model, you get a big pile of cash, and you worry about EBITDA and operations cost, right? Because eventually you're going to go public, or that's what the hope is. The private equities, they want to make money and make everybody happy, and eventually it's an attractive company. So once in a career, you get the opportunity to have a big pile of cash and take risks and really go for what go for aggressive strategies. So it's really fun, but it's either a career maker or a career killer.
But we can connect later if you have any questions.
Well.
Obviously, we can exchange the email address or something, and reach out to us, how it goes, and we'd love to, share the information with you. Absolutely.
I have one of my peers that work with another company. I think they're working with you guys, one of your integrators, and you can reach out to some coding sessions.
Awesome. Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, cool, guys. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for showing
Thank
up.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.